Hello and welcome to this introductory video in which I'm going to discuss why your young child's milestones matter, why you should be monitoring their milestones and what you should be looking for, why early identification of a delay or a learning difference is so important to your child's outcomes, and what to do if you have concerns about your child's development or learning abilities. My name is Dr. Kiepert Truong, and I specialize in early childhood development and learning with an expertise in early literacy development. I own a private practice called the First Foundation, and I provide individualized interventions to young children, and I provide support to their families as well. I will talk a little bit later on about my business and what I do, and some information about how you can reach out to me if you think we'd be a good fit to work together. One thing that I want to stress today is that early identification is key. Okay, so children can be more successful in their learning when their challenges and difficulties are identified, particularly at a young age. So your child's brain is growing at a very rapid pace in the first 5 years of life, and so this makes it an ideal time for early intervention to have its greatest impact. By receiving support earlier, you're going to help your child overcome their challenges and potentially even reduce or eliminate the need for specialized education services in the future. Now, this isn't always the case, as each child's scenario is different, but the earlier you begin targeting the areas of need, you will improve your child's outcomes. So the better they're going to do in the long run, the earlier you start intervention. So it's really important to note that every child develops at their own pace. There is a developmental continuum, and some children are going to learn and meet milestones faster, others might be a little slower, and that's okay. I really want to stress to you as the parent that you are the expert on your child. And it's really important for you to play an active role in observing how your child plays. How are they communicating with others? How do they interact with the world around them? How are they learning? How are they moving physically throughout their environment? So you want to have a keen perception on what your child does and understand really their strengths, and then maybe what he or she needs to work on. I always tell parents, try not to compare your child too much to other children and use other children as a baseline for development. I know as a parent myself that is hard to do, but what I do recommend is that you familiarize yourself with milestones and you utilize pre-made checklists. Okay, so the CDC, which is linked in the slide, has checklists that you can reference, you can print them, and these checklists were actually recently revised. The CDC also has a mobile milestone tracker app that you can put on your phone, so it makes it really easy to track your child's development. The milestones listed are ones that represent the age at which most children will have mastered a skill. And by most, that is defined as 75% or greater. And these skill sets are broken down by different developmental areas, or these milestones. Other checklists and websites that I like are pathways.org and 0to3.org. These are really great and really user-friendly and useful. They have wonderful practical tips and suggestions for working with your child at home too, so I definitely recommend checking those out as well. So now I'm going to address some common questions. And the first being, what should I look for in the early years? I do want you to go through and read the milestones from the CDC in their entirety, but at a very general level, I'm going to give you some ideas of what you should be seeing by certain time frames. So by a year, your child should be babbling. They should be saying things like mama, dad, dad, and stringing those babbles together and those sounds together. They should recognize and respond to their name, like a head turn or something like that. They should be responding to and understanding some words. So many kids at that age, they do not always listen to the word no, but they understand maybe what that means. In the first year, children learn to pull themselves up and walk with support. So they might be holding onto furniture to kind of get around. 1-year-olds are a lot of fun, and they do show interest in games like peekaboo. By the time your child is 2, you should be seeing them put 2 words together. So they might say, all done, after playing a game, or eating their food. They can also identify body parts. So if you ask them to point to a particular body part, like their nose, they should be able to do that. By the time they're 2, they'll be feeding themselves and using a spoon and running and kicking a ball, so their coordination becomes a little bit greater as well. By 3, children engage in pretend play with toys, and they show more interest in playing with other kids. So at an early age, children typically play alongside other children. This is known as parallel play. And as they get older, they do show more interest in playing with other children. By 3, your child should be stringing together short phrases of 3 words, and they should be able to engage in a back and forth exchange of conversation. And then by the time they're 3, they should also be able to put on some simple clothing items like their hat, maybe their jacket. They might not be able to zip it up on their own or do the buttons yet, but they can do some basic things. By 4, you should be seeing your child speak in longer sentences, so maybe stringing together 4 words at a time. By 4, they also might invite children to play with them. So on the playground, if they see another child, they might be interested in playing with them and say, hey, do you want to come play with me? Children by 4 also understand concepts like colors, shapes, numbers, things like that. They might tell you stories. They might tell you something that happened to them that day. By the time they're 4, they should be able to draw a person with 3 or more body parts. So usually 3-year-olds will draw a head, a body connected to it, some arms, some legs, and as they get older, the details will come. Also, by 4, children begin to use fingers and a thumb to hold a crayon rather than a fist. By 5, children are going to learn to count to 10. They are going to be speaking more clearly, so people outside of their family can easily understand what they're saying. As children get older, they learn to follow 2-step directions, and their attention span also grows, so they're going to be able to attend to an activity for 10 minutes. Some children longer, but up to 10 minutes. Again, I do want you to check out the whole list, though, but those are some highlights. And also, I encourage you to download the app if you so choose. Another common question that parents ask is, what would be a red flag? When should I be concerned? Well, since the milestones listed are what most children can do at that age, if your child isn't doing something that is listed, then you should be concerned. So, for instance, by 18 months, most children can say 3 words, including dada and mama. So if your child has no words by 18 months, this would be an area for concern. Also, with respect to physical development, most children are walking independently by 18 months. So if your child still needs to hold your hands or still holding onto furniture to really get around, then it's time to act, okay? It's also time to act if your child shows regression of skill sets. So if your child started to babble but is no longer doing that, then this would be an area of concern. I'm going to talk about what the next steps are shortly. You might be tempted to use a wait-and-see approach, but again, all of the research really supports the benefits of early intervention on development. Now, if you have an older child who might already be in school, parents often ask, what are some signs that my child has a learning difference or even a disability? How do we know if they have that? So, learning differences are more common than you might think. One common myth is that a learning difference or a disability is correlated to intelligence, which is not the case. Learning differences arise because of the way the brain is wired. So there's a difference in the wiring of the brain and the way the person processes information. And these differences are neurobiological. Sometimes schools don't always catch learning challenges when they arise. And parents often have more intuition that, or they have some intuition that something might be wrong. So some things that parents can look out for that may be indicative of a learning difference. So your child may show difficulty paying attention. They may have memory problems. Your child might be acting out in school. Your child might have a problem understanding words or directions. Some children also have executive functioning challenges where they have difficulty staying organized or managing their time effectively. And then other kids, of course, may have difficult time in a subject area. So they might be getting poor grades in areas like math, spelling, writing, or reading. So what to do if my child isn't meeting these milestones or if I have concerns about a learning difference? Well, simply stated, you need to act, okay? And you can do several things. You can discuss your concerns with your pediatrician, or if you have concerns that kind of span all of the different developmental areas, if you have many concerns, I often tell parents it might be worthwhile to reach out to a developmental pediatrician and make an appointment with them because they really specialize in developmental disorders. If your child is in a child care program or in a preschool program, you can discuss your concerns with your child's teacher. So they may see the same thing that you're seeing at home. They may see other things that you weren't aware of because the environment is different at school. I think it's always important to have an open dialogue with other individuals who interact with your child frequently. Another thing you can do, and this is probably the most important, is that you can contact your county's intermediate unit and you can ask for an evaluation to see if your child qualifies for an early intervention program or early intervention. Early intervention is designed to support children who have special needs due to a delay or a disability. You do not need a note from your doctor. I have linked on this slide the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit information, the Chester County, and the Delaware County, as well as some information on the DHS website about early intervention services. What will happen is once you reach out to them, they will determine if your child meets the criteria to receive these free services. And the services can take place in your home. Usually if your child is under the age of 3, the family system is very involved, but they can also take place at your child's daycare center if they're in daycare. Your child then, once they are 3, they transition into a preschool program, and then again, they will transition into a school age or kindergarten program. If your child is of school age and you have concerns and would like an evaluation to see if your child qualifies for an individualized education plan in kindergarten or elementary school, or if your child might qualify for a 504 plan, which would be accommodations in school, then you should reach out to your public school directly. I tell parents to usually reach out to the guidance counselor. Different schools might have different procedures, but the guidance counselor should be able, if they can't initiate the paperwork, then refer you to the person within the district that can. There are also special education advocates who can assist with this process as well, because it can be very overwhelming, and they can advocate for your child, and they can kind of be the mediator between you and the school. And in this group, there should be special education advocates, and you can reach out to them if you need their services. Now, suppose you have a concern about your child you do, reach out to early intervention, and what happens if they don't meet the criteria. So, not all children are going to necessarily qualify for services, but that doesn't mean that they don't need support, okay? Or there might be a child that does qualify for services and the parent may feel like, I need even more support. What do I do? They're not giving me enough. And so that's where this website and private professionals like myself come in. Erica Desper has made this amazing website full of resources for families navigating developmental delays, differences, and disabilities. Okay, it's specialneedscollective.com. So this is wonderful. It's very user friendly, and it's going to be your go-to for connecting you to the people and the businesses who can help you and help you navigate through your child's challenges. So a little bit about me and what I do, in case my services might be of value to you. Like I mentioned, I work in a private practice providing individualized interventions. I used to do groups, and I'm hoping to get back to that at some point. My doctorate is in educational psychology, and I have a certification in teaching focused on preschool, kindergarten, so early childhood ages, as well as a certification in structured literacy instruction. I really love early childhood and what I do because it has the greatest impact. And, I'm really in there providing the necessary foundations for success in school and in life. This carries through to day-to-day life. My business is called A First Foundation, and I named it that 10 years ago when I launched the business because those early first experiences are really going to be the building blocks for everything else. If I, had to say in one word what I do, it's confidence. It is building children's confidence, and for me, that is a really wonderful thing, and it's a very rewarding career. With infants through age 5, I provide developmental therapy or special instruction that is sort of overarching support for child development using an integrated and holistic approach. The methods that I use are play-based, and they focus on strengthening cognitive skills, social emotional development, addressing any challenging behaviors, and increasing early communication skills. With older children, I provide services that address common barriers to learning. This might be referred to as educational therapy. So I might work with children on executive functioning skills. I might work with them on addressing some social emotional needs that might be getting in the way of their reaching their full potential of learning at school. Some children may have an ADHD diagnosis, or they may have executive functioning deficits, or they may need tools that help them promote regulation of their sensories, of their emotions, things like that. I also work with parents by providing coaching in areas of early childhood development, behavioral challenges, or navigating the preschool education system. Some of the most common learning differences disabilities are in math, writing, and reading. And as a professional, I specialize in early literacy at the prevention and early intervention stage. So I'm working primarily with preschoolers, pre-kindergartners, kindergartners, first, second, sometimes third graders. If your child is having difficulty with learning the sounds of the letters, blending sounds into words, segmenting words into sounds, knowing whether two words rhyme, you might want to reach out to me and see if I can be part of your support network. All of my services are based on your child's individualized needs and use a research-based approach and research-based tools. I'm trained in a multitude of programs, and the approach I take is really multisensory and play-based because, these kids are still kids. They're still young. We establish treatment goals together, and we kind of work towards those goals together. We'll be doing things in sessions, and then I always provide home fun, which are things that you can do outside of the sessions to help expedite your child's progress. And every 10 to 12 weeks, I do provide kind of a more formal progress report. Thank you. That ends my what I have to say today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. The takeaway that I want you to have is that if you suspect your child may have a developmental delay or a learning difference, time is of the essence. Early intervention works, and it helps to rewire the brain. Through early intervention, your child is going to have an easier time overcoming their challenges, and treatment is going to help to alleviate or eliminate the social emotional impact of their differences. If you want to reach out to me, my information is here. You can email me at afirstfoundation@gmail.com if you have questions or if you'd like to set up a free consultation. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.